So, the truth about the fishing industry, everybody has an opinion about fish, right? Some people love them, some people hate them, some people don't want to be anywhere near fish when they're cooked because they stink up the place. Some people love fishing so much so that they would catch fish only to release them back. So, the curve is quite exuberant if you ask me. And then in the middle, right in the middle of all of that, smack dab, are those people that cannot go a day without eating fish. And these are your enthusiasts, if you will, people who live in coastal communities, if you will. Now, fishing has been the lifeline of communities on coastal areas for as long as we can comprehend. But recently, and not so recent, but recent enough to leave scars that we can witness from space, the fishing industry has gone haywire. And by that I mean that the global pollution that is being caused by one single industry and the loss of marine life that is being caused by one single industry is remarkable when we look at how one single industry is responsible for so much going wrong in the world. Now, according to PETA, which is the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, over 6.5 million marine mammals, or what is known as bycatch, are caught in the mix when industrial scale fishing comes into play. They're injured or they're killed every year and they're just tossed overboard because if they're busted with marine mammals on board, they are done. So, ghost gear is the most deadly form of marine plastic debris as per the World Wildlife Fund, the WWF. No, not the wrestling, that is the organization to which the WWF lost its case. So, today we're looking at a time and a place wherein bycatch is so horrendous that the greater aspect of what can be done is not only debatable but also all towards the same aspect. So what you can debate is how you fix it, but what you can't debate is whether it's an actual thing. Now, aquatic booby traps of death, essentially. Now, ghost gear is what? Ghost gear is things that the fishing industries or industrial scale fishing boats just toss overboard because they don't want it anymore. Essentially gear that they just leave. So abandoned fishing nets, you've got traps, you've got posts, you've got cages, you've got cages that were once hooked onto boats but then snapped off and there was no way of recovering said cages. We've got buoys, we've got microplastics, we've got actual disposal of horrendous waste from these vessels while they're out at sea itself. So the gear continues to fish and trap animals even though it's disconnected from the fishing boat itself and it's never going to be recovered, but the animals are still trapped inside. They're entangled and they're potentially killed every single time they come across something like this. It smothers their habitat and acts as a hazard to their abilities to navigate the waters that they call home. You see, unlike us as a civilization, we stick to where we come from and then that's it. Mammals, as well as animals and birds across the spectrum, tend to migrate from place to place across seasons so that they can live the best life. They deserve to be free. And we are wrecking not just their habitat, but ours as well. Let's talk about what happened at Ithaca. Now, a recent report stated that a cleanup drive was conducted on the Greek island of Ithaca. A team of around 45 people, including 20 divers, went onto this island and they recovered 5 tons. Yes, 5 tons of fishing nets, 32 tons of metal, 39 tons of plastic, 150 bags full of polythene foam, including equipment from a fishing farm which was abandoned in the year 2012. So fishing farms are the breeding grounds of some of the worst affected diseased fish out there. And every time you come across a news cycle about fish causing some kind of disease in human beings, it's because of fishing farms. Because they're containing fish into one particular body of water. Every excrement that is coming out of these hundreds, if not thousands of fish bound to this one particular space is in there with it. What happens when you put excrement in your entire living space and then force you to stay in that? Well, you don't need to be a scientist to understand how horrible that is for you. Even animals, they poop and they walk away. They don't live where they poop. They don't sleep where they poop. They don't eat where they poop. Why? Because nature has programmed that into us to understand the consequences of waste being in direct correlation to your health. But what if you're forced to live in your own filth? Then, well, that's when super viruses, super bacteria, and an entire concoction of weird diseases, if you will, comes into play. Now, I just don't want to talk about weird accusations in this piece, alright? And that is why this entire series, the takeaway as a whole, is usually powered by insights. Data, as we know it, is everything because numbers never lie. The World Wildlife Fund figures indicate that between 500,000 to 1,000,000 tons of discarded fishing equipment or ghost fishing equipment, if you will, is abandoned in the ocean every single year. Every single year. Ghost nets, if you will, make up to around 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That patch that you and I read about, that's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, that's bigger than a lot of states, bigger than a ton of cities. Well, up to 10% of the marine litter is estimated to be ghost fishing equipment. It also takes around 400 to 600 years for fishing nets to naturally decompose. You're talking about 600 years of fish getting trapped, animals getting trapped, ecosystems being destroyed for 600 years consecutively. Why? Because one fishing vessel lost a net that they couldn't recover and thought nothing of it. You see, as humans, we are exponentially good at not looking at the grander scheme of things. It's remarkable how good at that we are. It's just brain-numbingly good about how we don't care about consequences for our actions, and we never have. A lot of public consensus has come out about things recently, especially regarding the whole climate change and global warming movement, because people are trying to understand what is happening. Over 80% of the Indian Ocean dolphins may have been killed by gill nets, classified as bycatch, while fishermen were fishing for tuna. This news has been suppressed for so long in the Indian news media that no one even knows about the fact that Indian Ocean had, at one point in time I should say, a very sustained population of dolphins. That there are still river dolphins in India, a lot of people are still not aware of that. And when we figure out things like the fishing industry has killed upwards of 80% of these dolphins, creatures that we love and adore and we get tattoos of, we watch movies of, we picturize as, well, creatures that are so mystical and so amazing, bring out cheer and happiness and are a symbol of joy, are just killed and tossed overboard because bycatch. In 2018, over 300 dead olive ridley sea turtles. Let's just say that they have a very horrible track record with fishing nets and turtles. And dead turtles essentially migrating across water bodies, captured into a net and died. 300 endangered turtles dead. Found where? Off the coast of Mexico, dead in a net. 300 turtles. The scale, just look at the scale of the issue. The scale of the issue, people. I don't understand why it is so easy to turn your back on issues that are so distant. You know, I completely understand people's mentality when no one wants to care. No one's like, who gives a damn? Well, to be in the know-how of things changes that dramatically, because you're looking at a future wherein nothing that was regular way back in the day is even going to exist anymore. What can we do about it though? Now, I just don't want to talk about the negatives. I want to talk about what can be done, because we've already done what never should have happened. But the Global Ghost Gear Initiative, or the GGGI, launched in 2015, it has brought together upwards of 100 stakeholding groups, 17 national governments, as well as representatives from civil societies, the private sector, from public agencies and academias and international government organizations, and other people from across the fishing industry who know what they're doing, who are aware of the consequences of their actions. Because if nothing is done by the year 2047, the fishing industry is going to be dead. And that's a fact, because you're gonna run out of fish that you can just scoop out of the ocean like it's nobody's business. To tackle this problem of ghost gear just being tossed overboard and ghost gear affecting marine animals the worst way possible is now actually being considered to be dealt. To bring things full circle, I'd like to just mention one little thing, which is well exclusive to the Indian subcontinent, if you will. So you see, as per the UNDP, fishing communities along India's west coast should use square fishing nets instead of diamond mesh nets. Why? Diamond mesh nets, if you will, but let's say that, or even smaller, they trap baby fish. Baby fish that can otherwise swim away from their parents if their parents are scooped up in, well, square fishing nets. Baby fish that can actually have a chance at living even though their parents were scooped out of the ocean and, well, eaten, if you will, or just caught and killed and thrown back because bycatch. Now look at it that way, right? In 2018, the Kerala government launched a program to collect ghost gear, which was fed into a plastic shredding machine. But that program could only do so much. You see, these changes can be implemented across the globe on a global spectrum and into every single community out there, but education and why changes need to be made matters. And the narrative needs to be carefully curated for every single population that you're targeting to spread information to. You cannot have one common narrative that you feed to every single person and then expect every single person to come to the same conclusion that, yeah, this is bad. You need to go out of your way to mold different arguments for different situations to put your message out there and yet make a difference. And that is where everything changes. But what about the green plastic initiative that was a thing? Yeah, it's still a thing. Well, a new market of green plastics is reportedly emerging from various parts of the world. Shoes partially made from ocean plastics, or swimsuits made from ghost nets, or whatever is collected by divers that can harvest whatever they can and try to make things better. Well, products such as skateboards and sunglasses and athletic wear, amongst others, is a wide variety of new market niche that is being cultivated, that is essentially reused plastic. Now a lot can be done if this actually picks up steam, and if you are going in the market for some new products, try and go for something that is either sustained or built with reused materials. It goes a long way in helping the environment when you're not adding to the things that are needed to make things worse, instead removing things that were once worse into making things better. You see, as I always try to bring things on this show, it is a spectrum and you're on either end of it. Whether you choose to be on this end or this end, or you want to be somewhere in the middle, that's up to you. But to be in the know-how gives you the ability to make an accurate judgment based on what your thought process is, and that is where I would say is your takeaway.